I'd like to welcome everybody who's joined us here this evening to this presentation from Gary Harvey and Jeff McNamara at Rincon Resources. From wherever you're joining us, welcome. We'll make available this recording later on to pass along to those who couldn't attend this afternoon. So I'll pass this over to Gary to walk us through the presentation, give us an outlook as to where things are going, and give us an idea about what the shareholders can expect in the coming weeks and months. Thanks, Gary. Over to you.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you might be tuning in from. So I'm Gary Harvey. I'm the CEO of Rincon Resources, now in my 5th week at the helm and enjoying it very much. Rincon Resources, for some of you who may not know, we're a gold and copper focused exploration company. We've been floated since December last year, and we're already hitting the ground hard with our exploration activities, and I'm going to go through that with you right now. That's our, I'll just skip the disclaimer. You can read that at your leisure at a later date. Just a bit of an overview of our 3 projects. There's an overview map of Western Australia there. We've got the 3 projects: South Telfer Copper Gold Project, LAVERTON Gold Project, KIWIRRKURRA Gold Project, all located in what we believe are very prospective Tier 1 locations, surrounded by up-and-coming or indeed existing projects and operations. Quite vast and expansive. So South Telfer, this is our main project area, 514 square kilometres in the Paterson province. Very hot and active area at the moment. Obviously, we surround the Telfer gold mine. There's been 32 million ounces of gold produced there. And of course, recently there's been the significant Winu discovery by Rio Tinto, and the Havieron discovery by Greatland Gold and Newcrest Mining. We're about to commence in a matter of weeks 5,000 metres of RC drilling at our key prospect at HASTIES and HASTIES southeast, and I'll talk to that in a second. We've also got the LAVERTON Gold Project. It's the heart of the LAVERTON Gold District. Been over 25 million ounces of gold produced there to date. We're located on a limb of the Mount Margaret Murrin Greenstone Belt. We've got 6 kilometres of strike of prospective BIF stratigraphy, which already hosts some deposits to the north of our ground. We've just completed 6,400 metres of air core drilling in May. We have results. We're running a QA/QC over those results now, and you will see that released to the market in the next week or 2. Our 3rd project is KIWIRRKURRA. This is a blue sky first mover opportunity for us. We've got 126 square kilometres in the West Arunta origin in Central Australia, obviously on the Western Australian side of the border. This is a very prospective up-and-coming region and highly prospective for gold, orogenic gold and IOCG style copper deposits. Just moving through, we'll focus on South Telfer for a moment. Again, just to remind you, we have a significant land holding. We've got the RC drilling, 5,000 metres, commencing in 3 weeks. We've completed mapping, heritage survey to allow us to get on the ground and drill. We've also completed airborne and ground geophysics programs. That's in the middle of being processed by our geophysical consultants at this stage. And following that processing, we'll have a layer of targets which will be prioritised and will underpin our goal strategy going forward for the rest of that project, which mainly will be WESTIN and other areas outside of HASTIES. We're also about to commence ultrafine fraction soil sampling program over the WESTIN trend. This has been a very positive and useful technique used by a lot of the big players in the region, including IGO and Newcrest. IGO have had some recent and good success using that type of technique. So we're planning on doing that at WESTIN in the next month. That again will inform us and help us to identify some targets in that southeastern block of ground we have there for drilling later on this year. zoom in a little bit more. This is, shows you our tenements in the Paterson province in relation to some significant deposits in our immediate area. You can see in the top right-hand corner there, you've got Havron, 3.4 million ounces and growing. TELFER, which has produced 32 million ounces of gold and 1 million tonnes of copper. Directly south of TELFER, 12k south, you can see HASTIES. And then you can also see where our western trend is located. You can see by that we have a 25 kilometres of strike of prospective TELFER geology. And if you can see the spatial relationship with these deposits, you can see that we're pretty good area here that's been untested, and that's an area we'd like to target in the near term. Zooming in on HASTIES, what you can see on this map here is 3 rectangles. The 2 red rectangles are the area that we'll be focusing our 5,000 metres of drilling on. Now, that's directly in and around the existing drilling, which was done by Newcrest. On the right-hand side, you can see some very good gold intersections and copper intersections by Newcrest. Our drilling will infill around those results so we can get a better idea of the veracity of those results and also an understanding of the geology before we start to step out and do some more significant campaigns. We'll also be testing a southeast plunge to the mineralisation that we've identified through our interpretations. That plunge has not in the past been drilled by Newcrest. So we're actually quite looking forward to that. And following that program, so we expect this 5,000 metres to be completed or commence in 3 weeks. So it'll probably take a month to complete, followed by a month for the results to come in. At the end of that period, so we're looking at about 8 weeks' time, we'll be looking to commence a phase 2 drilling campaign, which will involve a much more significant area of testing, further RC and diamond drilling to test some deep targets that we're starting to identify from our IP survey we did earlier this year. So all the action for the moment will be at South TELFER. Certainly the next 3 or 4 months will be very busy there. It's a little snapshot showing some of the mapping that we did earlier this year, some targets we've identified from that mapping that will be overlaid with the geophysical interpretation we're about to complete to inform us how to prioritise some of those targets for drilling inside that blue square you saw on the previous diagram. On the right-hand side, you can see there's certainly got some outcropping mineralisation. Malachite there, the green copper mineral. So it's very real and looking forward to drilling it. Just another zoom in on the western trend there. Historically, there's been a series of wide-spaced air core drilling over a 5-kilometre strike. There's been gold anomalism identified in those holes of 0.1 grams per tonne gold and above. So that's a 5K trend centred around one intersection of 8 metres at 3.85 grams per tonne. That's our western anomaly. This is the area that we intend to do our first pass soil sampling program. And on the basis of that program, if it proves successful, we'll extend that across the entire package of tenements you see there. When that's complete, we'll overlay that with the targets identified from our VTEM geophysical survey, and then that'll underpin our strategy for exploring that group of tenements later this year or early next year. We'll just move on to the LAVERTON gold project. You can see there, red boundary, orange rectangle. That's our 2 tenements at LAVERTON. We're in and amongst some world-class deposits there at Granny Smith and Wallaby and the Mount Morgans Mining Centre. This is a well-endowed belt. There's been over 25 million ounces of gold produced from it, and we're right in the middle of it as well. You can see there just to the northern side of our tenement is the Gladiator deposit. It produced about 70,000 ounces. And the BIF hosted unit, or the banded iron formation that the deposit is associated with, runs straight down through the guts of our tenement. That's been the focus of our recent air core drilling of 6,400 metres, of which you'll have results coming out in the next week or so. If we zoom in on that particular northern tenement, the main one, you can see there the 4 target areas we drilled: area 1, 2 and 3, and the GG anomaly. Area 1, we followed up an intersection of 7 metres at 15.9 grams. And the GG anomaly had 4 metres at 1.55. What we did notice with this drilling is that there's a very extensive level of transported cover, which previously was poorly tested. Although it looks like there's been a lot of drilling there, and there has been, a lot of that's been quite shallow, particularly in area 2. When I went out there for a field inspection, we noticed that our holes were going down to 100 plus metres and still in oxidised material. So there's a fair amount of depleted geology before you get to bedrock. Pending the results of this program, the next phase for us will be to get out there with an RC rig and actually drill some deep holes to penetrate that bedrock geology and see if we've got a deeper source to the gold. Finally, I'll just run you through KIWIRRKURRA. This is one of our more prospective projects, but at this stage, given its remoteness, it's taking us a little bit longer to get out there. We're currently in the process of organising or getting a heritage agreement sorted, negotiated with the locals. Once that's completed, that will allow us access onto that ground. In the meantime, what we have done out there is completed photogeological mapping with targeting, and also we have got our geophysical consultants doing a reinterpretation of historical geophysical data sets. That'll be overlaid with our mapping, and again will inform us of targets and prioritisation of those targets, and that'll underpin again the strategy on how to explore this going into probably into next year. Given that we're going to be quite active at TELFER, ground activities at KIWIRRKURRA is likely to commence second quarter of next year. But this is clear. This is an IOCG style deposit or prospect. You can see there on the right hand side some of these results. 32 metres at 0.46% copper. 64.39 really demonstrates the potential of this area, and none more so than the activity of some of our competitors in the region. You can see on the key there, Rio Tinto have got a swag of ground. They're obviously very excited about the area, and they've just recently done a major joint venture with KIWIRRKURRA Resources. And also up into the northern side there, you've got Hamlin Resources, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Encounter. So they're also very active. All that Agrimin tenements there is all the Lake Mackay phosphate projects. So that's not necessarily for IOCG, but look, we're in the guts of this area. It's up and coming. It's underexplored to date, but people are cottoning on to the fact that it's got very good potential. So we're excited to be there and right in the heart of it all. Next page is really just a layout, semi-schedule of our activity and the timelines. Obviously, at the end of those arrows, you can probably expect some announcement or information coming to the market. And that's just an overview of our corporate structure, if you'd like to look at that further. Okay, Peter, I think that's it.
Okay, good. Thanks, Gary. So it's pretty direct because your plan is pretty direct, which is great. I think since Rincon listed, you've been methodically going through the process, which I think is good to see in a junior, that we're systematically going through the program. has there been much movement on the register? Have you seen, it seems to be fairly stable. The share price has been pretty solid. I've seen a lot of pretty detrimental selling across the market in general, but Rincon seems to be holding pretty steadily.
No, look, there hasn't been a lot of movement. The register's tightly held at this point in time, which is good. You know, a lot of our holders are long-term and, you know, they're holding on and they're waiting. So, look, we hope to do the right thing and you know, get a good return for their investment. And I think we can do that.
Yeah, look, there's some pretty good projects there. Just a question here on South Telfer. There's some pretty substantial historic drilling results there. How long have they been around and why do you think there hasn't been any activity here based on those already? Because I would have thought, you know, 3.4% copper, almost 4 meters at 5% copper from fairly shallow depths, and some pretty solid gold results, 57 at 2, 16 at almost 5 grams, 68 at 1.3. How long do these historic results hang around, and why do you think they haven't been followed up on before?
Yeah, look, this drilling was actually done by Newcrest back in the mid-90s. And Newcrest held, you know, a very large, extensive area in the Patterson region. So, you know, at the time, you know, around the 2000s, Newcrest started having issues with their mill. The tenements would have started to be getting mature, and despite there being, you know, these little shows that they would have drilled, and certainly there would have been many of them. They obviously had to make decisions in terms of holding the ground or relinquishing it. And so this obviously fell into a relinquishment basket. And subsequently, following that, it was picked up, all these tenements that we have were picked up by a prospector and basically just held for 10 years without any activity. So we were obviously fortunate enough to have got this through dealing with that prospector. But again, you could say the same thing about all the other parties in the area. They've all picked up ground that all used to be held by Newcrest. And what we're seeing is Newcrest are now starting to jump back in and farm in with all those current holders. And specifically, I'm talking about Greatland and then TELFER. Significant high-value JVs in place, and you're starting to see the benefits of that. And you know, markets change, decisions change, strategies change. We're a beneficiary of that, so not complaining.
And the outcropping there that you showed in some of those photographs looks pretty tantalising. With the combination of the outcropping and the historic results, it must save you significant time and money on you know, what you would have carried out in geophysical and geochemical type of work. Would that be fair to say? Does it give you, you know, a year or more or a lot of money sort of head start?
Yeah, totally. Half the work's been done for us. But like all these things, you can't go in blindly and trust these data 100%, which is why this current program, we're going to have to re-drill some of these areas, and that's part of our due diligence and QA/QC. If we're going to develop a resource on this, we need to know that that existing data is real and can be relied upon. So, like, we're not going to re-drill it entirely, but you'll have to have a certain level of twinning existing holes in order to be confident in the old data. So this is why the first 5,000 metres is more about validating what's there, improving our understanding of the geology, the structure, and then with the phase 2 drilling, we'll have more confidence in stepping out, drilling deeper holes below the system, testing this thing at depth, and also testing additional targets that we're starting to identify from our work. So yeah, it puts us at least 12 months ahead of schedule.
Fantastic. And 3 to 4 months of fairly intensive activity there should give plenty of news flow as you progress through that program.
Absolutely. You know, not assuming that it's all going to be successful, but if it is, we could be drilling here permanently on an ongoing basis for 12 months, you know. outside of obviously periods where you simply can't get up there due to cyclone season and the like. But, you know, if we're successful with these first two programs, there's no reason why we won't be drilling this thing on a continuous basis for the next 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow up good results. It could be there for the long haul, drilling it out.
Absolutely. That's what we'd like to be doing.
Yeah, ideally, yes. Now, just a question here on LAVERTON, the Gladiator gold mine there. What sort of geology is that sitting in, and what sort of depths are you talking about with that mine? And is it something we'd be looking for similarly, given the geological setting?
Yeah, no, that's correct. So look, the Gladiator is actually a series of small deposits. They're all oxide deposits, fairly shallow pits, probably down about 40 or 50 metres. Right. And the grade was anywhere between 1 and 3 grams. So in totality, that group of pits in that area has amounted to roughly 70,000 ounces. So look, we hope to, you know, LAVERTON, given you're drilling along the same stratigraphy, you're probably going to emulate what's been defined in the past on that trend. So we would expect to find something similar. The challenge we have is that as soon as you basically hit our tenement, the cover, there's a massive alluvial channel that basically covers up all the old geology. That's actually very thick, it's about 50 metres thick. So anything that we find is going to be at depth below that. Yeah. So 1 to 3 grams is not going to cut it. Unfortunately, we would have to find something quite high grade to extract value out of it. And otherwise, you simply, it's obviously not going to be cost effective to remove 50 metres of cover with nothing in it to get to a deposit below it if it's only a few grams. So, look, we'll test for the potential of something higher grade at depth below this cover. If we don't feel that that's realistic or if that's not going to come to fruition, then we'll quickly move on.
Yeah, no, understood. Looking for the host rocks at depth that gave up some of their easier gold into the oxide at surface.
Exactly.
And KIWIRRKURRA, it still seems there's some big some larger companies in the area. Got a great neighbourhood to be drilling in, and there's potential for orogenic and IOCG. The other neighbours in that area, have they come up with anything that would suggest that sort of style of mineralisation is in the area, and what sort of depths, if they have?
Yeah, look, we're still sort of building our understanding of what's going on out in this region. It's, like I said, it's fairly new. IGO have been quite successful. You can see the purple tenement there just to the southeast of us. That's IGO, but IGO's ground actually extends quite vastly onto the Northern Territory border side of the fence. They've been quite successul in their exploration on they're actually doing a JV with another company. They haven't hit IOCG, but they've hit some other base metal type deposits in nickel and cobalt and the like. They're quite deep. But at Pekali, we know that our mineralisation is not that deep, as you can see from some of those intersections there. Yeah. Starting from 26 metres. So a lot of these, and I've only just recently reviewed this drilling data, and I'm actually quite surprised that a lot of these drill holes have got mineralisation running all the way down the hole, carrying economic grades of copper. So we believe that drilling has hit something on the edge of a bigger system. We don't know the scale of that yet. That's something we want to work out before we go in and do our own drilling. And look out, these systems are very big. They can be very deep, or they can be not deep, but we get to find that out.
And that West Arunta, is that like an orogenic belt?
Yeah, it is. It's effectively an old subduction zone. It's quite technical to explain, I guess, from a geological perspective. But yeah, it's an old suture zone defined by an old boundary at the edge of two plates that basically have clashed or come together. So it's a good area to be in. And I guess simply because it's a remoteness and the lack of data that's been available over that area, it's sort of been overlooked for quite some time until now. And, you're finding that with many parts of Australia as the Geoscience Australia starts to put more data sets together. There's people are building their knowledge of new areas and then they go in as first movers. And, that's what we're doing. We're moving into a new area and hopefully we can achieve some success.
Well, if IG are there looking for another Tropicana style type of orogenic deposit, then they're good neighbours to have.
Yeah, they are. And indeed, Rio Tinto is a good neighbour to have as well.
Yeah. Well, look, that's depleted our question time. I think the key focus here is going to be the next, the drilling that starts in July at South Telfer and the next 3 to 4 months activity there, which we'll look forward to getting those results and getting them out to everybody and making sure everyone's aware of hopefully the successes that are coming. So thanks for your time tonight, Gary and Jeff. And unless there's something else like to add in there, Jeff, you've just been quietly overseeing the presentation.
No, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Gary. As you said, exciting time coming up with drilling starting in 2 weeks. Some great results from Newcrest and look forward to replicating some of those and expanding on them.
All right. Well, thank you very much. If there are any questions that people would like to ask, please email them through to me, peter@nwrcommunications.com.au, and we'll make sure we get them to Gary. And we'll make sure this recording is available for everybody in attendance and on the website. So thank you for attendance this evening and this morning, and we wish you all